Racing didn't really come into my life until I was around 16 or 17 when I started driving, and I had a lot of guys that were my buddies, and they took me to the races, and it was mostly the drag races. And I actually mouthed off at one of my buddies when they lost at this little local track that we were at. And he said, "If you're so good, why don't you drive the car?" And I said, "Really? Will you let me drive your car?" And I remember sitting on the line and getting it up to about 3,000 RPM and watching the lights, and I mean, I just came alive inside. I mean, maybe it was adrenaline, I don't know, but I just felt so powerful at that moment, and I had done nothing in my life ever before that I felt that power, and I won. And so I came home and showed my mom this trophy and said, "Wow, this was just so cool, Mom," you know, and she goes, "Look, I didn't send you to girls' school and give you piano lessons to teach them, you know, I've taught you to be a young lady, a self-sufficient, independent young lady, and you're not gonna be doing that kind of stuff." So that came to a screeching halt. I still was a spectator, though. I went to a lot of races. So there was something about the sport, the sounds, the smells, all the sensation. It was really so exciting. It wasn't until I moved to Florida and I went to the 24 Hours of Daytona and the 12 Hours of Sebring. I married this great guy that had a motorcycle and was really cool. And we found out about the Sports Car Club of America, and he said, "Well, why don't we join and let's see if we can figure out how to do this." And so we went out, and I got a Ford Pinto. I put a roll bar in it and a 5-point seatbelt and a 5-pound fire extinguisher. And so we were husband and wife, business partners, and racing team. And so I raced the Pinto. I passed my first driver's school and my second driver's school. And I just thought, once I got behind the wheel of that Pinto, I thought this was it. This was what I felt like I was meant to do in this world. And so I was in my 20s. I had no role models, but I didn't really think about that. All I wanted to do was not be an embarrassment to myself and have fun, and that meant win races and learn how to drive well. I noticed that the car that's usually first on the grid for practice, and it's clean, and that's organized in the garage, it's amazing how those cars tend to be the cars that win. And so I started making sure I was first on the grid for practice instead of being always last and hustling and never making it on time. I worked hard on our team to make sure that we looked, like we had our act together and we were organized. There was an article in Car and Driver magazine that was about Ford Motor Company wanting to sell the Capri, it was the Mercury Capri at the time, to women. They wanted to provide equal employment opportunities for women in non-traditional roles. And I said, "You need to sponsor me, and if you do that, I'll be able to demonstrate that women can be successful in male-dominated fields, and more women will buy your car because I'm going to race it." And they said, "Thank you very much, but no thank you. But keep us informed of your progress." So it was a no, but with a little crack in the door. And I bugged them for 3 years. And every time I saw any kind of an article about Ford Motor Company, I would send them letters, I would send them pictures, I would send them little articles that maybe were written about me, and I hounded them to death. So I think that Ford signed me because they said, this woman is driving us crazy, and the only way we can control them is if we hire her. I'm absolutely convinced. It was a pretty rugged year as far as success on the racetrack. I was getting very nervous. It was a one-year contract. So through that year, I would call Ford dealers, and I'd say, look, I'm going to be racing in Atlanta, or I'm going to be racing in Ohio, or I'm going to be racing in Lime Rock, Connecticut, or various cities that we were going to. And I'll come in a day early and bring my car and, and help promote the fact that we're coming. Because what I learned was that Ford really had to sell the dealers on this support that they were getting back into racing. And I convinced them that I could do more than just drive the race car for them, and I got a separate personal service contract from Ford to start making personal appearances for the media and for dealers and things like that. I was on a mission to sustainability for my career, and I knew that if I had to rely on just the success of what was happening while we were blowing up all these engines, that I might have a very short career, and I was hoping to have a long career. I made anywhere from 50 to 100 appearances a year. These organizations that were women's groups would contract with Ford Motor Company to have a display and an exhibit and be a sponsor. And then as a bonus, they got me as a speaker. And I learned how to be a speaker, which now is how I make a living as a motivational keynote speaker. But the Indianapolis 500 was my first oval track race and only my second open wheel race. All my racing had been done in sedans and had done primarily on road courses. And I never would recommend that to anybody, but it was the best I could do. Because when I finally got the sponsorship, that was, I couldn't say, well, I need more money because I got to go do some other races in an open wheel. And I mean, you have to go with what you got. But because of the Talladega experience I had, because of all the other racing, quality racing I'd had, and because Dick Simon took me down to Texas and taught me how to drive an oval, which means you got to go flat. You got to put your foot on the gas all the way around that racetrack, and you've got to be able to turn the steering wheel and not lift. And I'm telling you, there's a bone in your right foot that when you turn the steering wheel, it's like there's a string connected and the foot wants to come up. It's a psychological thing. And it takes some doing, but we got there. And so with the help and the support of all the people I'd had around me, I was successful at doing it. But I'm telling you, it was something else. I wanted to find out a way that I could help the next generation of young up-and-coming drivers to succeed, and particularly women. And so I started a driver development program, which I've been doing since 1994. So life after Indy, or after me racing professionally, has been race for fun and give back to the sport and help the sport grow. What I'm teaching is, if you are already successful as an amateur and you aspire to be a professional, then you've got to learn how to give an interview. You've got to learn how to be physically and mentally ahead of what you need to do. It's an invitational only thing. So I gather resumes, I go to racetracks, I look for the best out there. I say I look for the cream, and then I try to, give them this educational experience that then they'll help them be better prepared. I'm only about opportunity. Where my passion is that if somebody has the talent, the ability, the desire, and they're willing to dedicate their effort and everything, they deserve the opportunity.